Okay, got there. Okay, okay, so we are live now. I think we can start. So I welcome all in this weekend lecture series of Association of Microbiological Unit and Department of Microbiology. So this is the fourth webinar in this series which we are having today. I will again once brief that we are having it on one lecture every Saturday, one lecture every Sunday. Sunday we are inviting the senior professors, scientists to share their research experiences. On Sunday we are calling the young faculty, research scholars and students to just share their experience, recent experiences and just discuss their doubts. And basically the idea is to give a platform to them to get used to online systems and giving lectures and all that. So I welcome you all. Now I call Professor S.K. Soni to conduct the further session.
Good morning to all of you. We have with us Dr. Karamveer Kaur from NABI, Mohali. Dr. Karamveer Kaur is a project scientist in plant tissue culture and genetics engineering unit at National Agri Food Biotechnology Institute, that is NABI, Mohali, since August 2019. And she was the senior research fellow in the same division from December 2018 to April 2019. And she was PhD scholar from August 2013 to August 2018 in the Virology Discovery Unit and Bioinformatics Center at Institute of Microbial Technology, Chandigarh. The research interest or the research areas of Dr. Karamveer Kaur include CRISPR-Cas. Just a minute. The research areas include CRISPR-Cas biology, bioinformatics, molecular biology, genomics, and next generation sequencing data analysis. That Karamveer Kaur did her BSc in biotechnology from Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, and she obtained MSc degree in molecular biology and biochemistry from GNDU, and she obtained PhD in bioinformatics from Institute of Microbial Technology, Chandigarh. She is expert in several computer software and molecular biology, and she has published 5 papers in international journals of high impact factors. And she qualified UGC and CSIR NET with All India rank of 84. She was awarded first position in model making in Doaba SciTech 2010, which was held in the Department of Biotechnology, Doaba College, Jalandhar. She obtained advanced diploma in bioinformatics in 2010. So I welcome on behalf of the AMI and the Department of Microbiology. Now, I now invite Dr. Karamveer Kaur to start her lecture.
A very good morning to all, and thank you, sir, for your kind introduction. So today I am just going to give you a overview of what is CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So my talk will be covered in 3 main components. First is to understand what is CRISPR, and secondly what is genome editing, and then lastly what is the role of bioinformatics. So how we can use the biological data and merge it with informatics or computer science to do the different kind of analysis. So firstly, coming to what is CRISPR. So CRISPRs are clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, and these kind of repeat sequences were firstly found in the genome of E. coli as unusual sequence elements which were around 29 nucleotides long, and these sequences were further separated by some other sequences of 32 nucleotide length, and they were called as spacer sequences. So at the time of their identification, they were known by different names like short regularly spaced repeats, large cluster of tandem repeats, etc. And in 2002, Jensen and his team coined the name CRISPR for this unusual sequence element array. And after that, in 2005, Mozika and his team identified that the spacer sequences which are present adjacent to these repeat sequences are actually originated from the viruses. So now coming to what is CRISPR-Cas system, what actually this system is. So CRISPR-Cas system is an adaptive immune system which is present in the genome of prokaryotes to prevent themselves from the viral attacks. So for example, as we humans have immunity against fighting with different infections, so bacteria has come up with different strategies to prevent themselves from the viral attacks. So this is an adaptive immune system that consists of nucleic acids and CRISPR associated proteins. And similar to RNA interference pathway that is present in eukaryotes, this system causes sequence specific identification and silencing or killing of the viral particles foreign nucleic acids. So this is another example of how this CRISPR-Cas locus looks in bacteria. So it is firstly followed by a leader sequence, which is AT rich, and it has some promoter-like properties, which are required for the transcription of this array, which is repeat and spacer. So after this repeat spacer array, there is a set of Cas genes which are present, and these Cas genes are the main key players which encode proteins which are required for the transcription of this repeat spacer array. So this is the example of a general mechanism how this CRISPR-Cas system is able to provide immunity to the bacterial cells. So what happens when a particular phage, for example, a virus attacks a bacterial cell? So a segment of this phage genome get integrated into this CRISPR array, and it forms the adaptation phase, and then with the help of these Cas proteins, it forms some 72 nucleotide long transcripts which are known as pre-CRISPR RNAs, and these CRISPR RNAs are further chopped into small RNAs known as CRISPR RNAs. Now coming in contact with the same phage for the second time, these RNAs get activated and they bind to their complementary sequence present in the viral genome, and these Cas proteins along with these CRISPR RNAs form a ribonucleoprotein complex, and it will cause a degradation of the foreign nucleic acid followed by the presence of a protospacer adjacent motif which is present downstream to the complementary sequence. So the CRISPR-Cas system is basically divided into different types, that is class 1 and class 2, which are further subdivided into different types based on the presence of the signature Cas proteins which are present. For example, if we use Cas proteins from Streptococcus pyogenes, it will be having a different different efficiency or different kind of processing the viral components as compared to the others. So on the basis of that, these CRISPR-Cas9 proteins are divided into different categories. But amongst them, the Cas9 protein from Streptococcus pyogenes has found its main application in genome editing. So this Cas9 is a kind of endonuclease, and it mediates double-stranded breaks at the target site. So as I have told that CRISPR-Cas9 have found its application in genome editing. So now coming to genome editing. What is genome editing? So genome editing is a manipulation of any gene. So we want to study the function of a gene. We do some genetic manipulations at the target site. So in genome editing, we use artificially designed nucleases that contain a sequence complementary to your target gene fused with the nucleases. And these nucleases mediate double-stranded breaks at the target site. And after that, double-stranded breaks are generated at the target site, and these breaks are then repaired by cells' internal repair mechanisms. First is the non-homologous end joining, in which cells try to fill the gaps which are generated by these breaks, and by inserting some nucleotides and sometimes by deleting some nucleotides from there. And if a homologous template, that is a similar kind of sequence, is elsewhere in the genome, it gets integrated at the target site, forming the homology directed repair. So till now, there are different genome editing tools which are being used. First are the zinc finger nucleases, in which we use zinc fingers that bind to the that are complementary to your target sequence fused with the FOC1 nucleases. And these FOC1 nucleases, on coming in contact with both the DNA strands, they dimerize and mediate double-stranded breaks at the target site. Similarly, there are transcription activator like effector nucleases. Similar to zinc finger nucleases, these are also present. They are also fused with the FOC1 nucleases, and with the help of amino acid, they are joined. And on coming in contact with the target site, these FOC1 nucleases dimerize and then cause the sequence-specific identification and cleavage of the target sites. So these tools are very efficiently used for genome editing, but there are some problems associated with the already existing genome editing tools. For example, if we want to target different locations of a genome, we have to engineer the whole enzyme again each and every time, which is very time consuming, and it's very costly also, and it sometimes causes toxicity. So in 2012, this CRISPR-Cas system has found its biggest application, that is genome editing. So it's very beautiful. Being a prokaryotic system, it can be harnessed or used to target the genome of various organisms like animals, like humans, like plants, etc. So I will discuss typically this CRISPR-Cas system is basically made up of two main components. First is the CRISPR RNA, followed by the tracer RNA. So what researchers have done, they have fused the CRISPR RNA and tracer RNA into a single RNA, which is called single guide RNA. So you just have to design the 20 nucleotides complementary to your target site, followed by a PAM sequence, which is NGG. If we are using Cas9 for targeting of CRISPR-Cas9 system, we require NGG, and can be any nucleotide followed by the GG. So any sequence upstream to this particular motif can be used as a target for the CRISPR-Cas mediated genome editing. So what research highlighted the use of this CRISPR-Cas system in genome editing? So there was an article in 2012 by Jennifer Doudna and his group. This was the paper which highlighted the role of this prokaryotic system to be used as a genome editing tool in humans or in each and every form of organisms in the field. And then after that, there was no stop. This particular technology was used to target genome of humans, then in C. elegans, and then in bacterial genomes in zebrafish. And then the main important application of this CRISPR-Cas system is targeting the genome of viruses. So in brief, I will again highlight the importance of this CRISPR-based genome editing. So as I have already told, that initially it was just used to check whether this particular technology is doing any manipulations at a target site or not. For example, the scientists were only curious to know whether this will be helping to do any gene perturbation at a target site, and it will lead to insertion deletions to study just the homologous recombination events. After that, CRISPR-Cas9 system is also being widely used in transcription activation or transcription repression or epigenetic modifications. So in this particular thing, the Cas9, the wild type Cas9 is mutated, and it is fused with the repression and the activation domain of the genes, and it will help you to initiate the expression of a particular gene or stop the expression of a particular gene. And then different forms of Cas proteins have been available, and they can be used for doing different things to minimize the off targets, etc. And then they have also CRISPR is associated with many ecological benefits. For example, it is highly used to engineer plant genomes and to create stress resistant crops, etc. And then it has also a very benefit in therapeutics. For example, it is used to cure the beta thalassemia, and then in antiviral therapy or defense, for example, in targeting HIV, dengue, EBV, HPV, etc. So now coming to the role of bioinformatics, I will just give you a brief what is bioinformatics. So bioinformatics is a field of life sciences which is used to analyze the large amount of data which is being generated in the biological experiments or in the wet lab experiment. So whenever we do experiment, a lot of data gets generated. So how to analyze, how we will be able to interpret what this particular data is saying. So for that we need bioinformatics. So bioinformatics will be used to analyze the data and to do different kind of things related to that data. So I will try to explain what is the role of bioinformatics with biology with the example or the work I have done during my PhD. So basically, the main aim of my work during my PhD was the development of computational resources and analysis of CRISPR-Cas based genome editing. So in that particular area, I was able to explore the use of bioinformatics to solve the biological problems associated with the CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing. So I started working in this particular field in 2013, and during 2012, a lot of data gets generated on CRISPR-Cas system, right? So whenever we want to do work on a particular field, for example, we try to start some work on cancer. So for that we have to have some background information. So it's very tedious to go through all the research articles and then find out your relevant article related to your problem. So for that there are different kind of bioinformatic databases or resources which are being made by the researchers to narrow down your research and to help you and save your time. So when I started working in this particular area, the research related to bioinformatics on CRISPR was very limited. So ample amount of experimental data on CRISPR-Cas9 technology has been generated in day to day and in a very a very large speed. So till now there was no comprehensive bioinformatic repository was available that was able to hold all the experimental data on a single platform, and then prediction algorithm for predicting the efficiency of single guide RNAs, and then prediction algorithms that can help to minimize the off target. So I will explain all in detail in my coming slides. So before that, I would like to explain that there are different kind of databases nowadays which are being available on this particular area, that is on solely based on the CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing, like CRISPR-DB, it's Genome CRISPR and Anti-CRISPR-DB. And these are some of the web resources, that is machine learning techniques or algorithms which are available in this particular field for designing of the sgRNAs, like eCRISPR, ChopChop, CRISPR-Strand, sgRNA Designer, wCRISPR and DeepCRISPR. And these are the tools which are available for the predicting the off-target effects of this particular technology. So now first coming to CRISPR-GE, which is a central hub of CRISPR-Cas based genome editing. I am not going to explain all the resources which are available in this field. I am just giving you example what I have done during my PhD for in bioinformatics related to CRISPR-Cas system. So firstly, what we have done, as I have already told, when I started working on this particular field, a lot of data was generated. So whenever we want to initiate experiment on CRISPR-Cas system, for example, we are working on bacteria, or for example, we are working on plants. So we want to know which kind of plants are already being targeted with CRISPR-Cas system and what are the genes which are being targeted by CRISPR-Cas system. So for that, to minimize that time and that effort, what we have done, we have created this repository which is dedicated to CRISPR-Cas9 experiments. So in this particular thing, what we have done, we have extracted all the relevant information related to CRISPR-Cas9 from PubMed, and then analyze the data on critical fields. For example, what are the organisms which are being targeted till 2015, what were the genes which were targeted, and what were the sequences which were targeted using this CRISPR-Cas system. Then what are the experimental conditions? For example, the experiments were performed on cell lines, or for example in plants were performed on protoplasm, etc. Information of that. And lastly, what were the analysis system? For example, what were the assays which were used to assess the editing, to check the editing efficiency, or to check the whether editing has done or not on the target site. What are the assays which were used? Then the genetic modification, for example, it created insertion deletions, or it created HDR mediated recombination at the target site, etc. So after that, we integrated different tools also. For example, BLAST nucleotide DB and BLAST CRISPR-GE, in which user just have to enter its sequence. It will blast it against a database, and it will tell you whether this kind of sequence has already been targeted or not. So to save time, we have created this repository using bioinformatic approaches. So after extracting all the data, we analyze the data on different parameters. For example, firstly, as I have already told, that we tried to explain or learn what are the organisms which are maximum used in this particular technology. So we were able to find that mainly the experiments of CRISPR-Cas9 system initially were done in the mice, rat. In case of plants, the main experiments were done on Rhabdopsis and its model organism, followed by Homo sapiens. In the same way, we checked what are the genes which are being targeted by CRISPR-Cas system, and we find that tyrosinase followed by alcohol dehydrogenase, phytoin dehydrogenase, etc. were the genes which were targeted maximum times by using this CRISPR-Cas9 approach. Then we came to analyze the conditions on which these experiments were performed, and we have found that in case of zebrafish, mostly the most favored route of this CRISPR-Cas9 transfection was the embryo. That means giving this Cas9 or SGRN designing construct directly to the embryos. And in case of plants, mostly the experiments were done on the protoplast, and in the case of humans and mice, they are mainly done on the cell lines, which is HEK 293 cell line. Lastly, we then analyzed what are the detection methods which are used to analyze the modifications that is mediated by at the target site, and we have found that sequencing was the best favored method for analyzing the insertion or deletions which are happened at the target site using due to this CRISPR-Cas9 editing, followed by the T7 endoglutinase 1 assay and PCR. Then after that, we analyze the pattern of the modification. That is, when cell try to repair its broken ends, for example, when there's a double-stranded break, as I explained earlier, that non-homologous end joining takes place, and it will insert some sequences or delete some sequences from the target site to mend that gap. So we have analyzed that whenever there is a CRISPR-Cas based genome editing, mostly there is an insertion of one base pair followed by deletion of one base pair, 4 base pairs, and 3 base pairs. So these are the modification patterns which got mediated at the target site. After analyzing our data and extracting data from the relevant papers, we have integrated all the informations on this web server, which is CRISPR GE. It can be browsed by different components. For example, the web server can be browsed by organism, gene, target, cell, and assay. You want to check which organisms which are being targeted by CRISPR-Cas system. You just click on this. It will display all the list of the organisms which are reported in this database. And on clicking on a single entry, it will give you all the details. The gene which was targeted, the pathway in which that gene is involved, its protein sequence, and then what was the sequence at a target site which was used as a target. Then the modification pattern, the location of the gene, and then its efficiency, how much efficiently this CRISPR-Cas9 technology has edited the target site, and then followed by the vectors which are used for doing this CRISPR experiment or transfecting the cells with this CRISPR-Cas9 constructs. So next, coming to the algorithm, which is GE CRISPR, an integrated pipeline for the prediction and analysis of sgRNA's genome editing efficiency for CRISPR-Cas system. So what is sgRNA? I'll explain again. It is a single guide RNA, which is a chimeric form of this CRISPR RNA and the tracer RNA. So CRISPR-Cas9 technology requires two main components. First is the Cas proteins, and second is the CRISPR RNA, which is fused with the tracer RNA. So what researchers have done, they have tried to fuse the CRISPR RNA and tracer RNA. That means binding the nucleotides which are crucial for both the RNAs into a single chimeric form, which is sgRNA. And they have found the efficiency of this sgRNA, clubbed sgRNA, is similar to that of their counterpart. So instead of giving cell the burden of using this RNA separately, they have created a chimeric or fusion form of this CRISPR RNA, which is now called sgRNA. So for doing experiment, you just have to use this sgRNA, 20 base pair sgRNA, which is complementary to your target sequence, and fuse it with Cas9 proteins. And this Cas9 protein will be created at the double-stranded break at the target site where your sgRNA will bind. So then the reports came which experimentally validated the efficiency of sgRNAs. So whenever we do an experiment, for example, we are designing sgRNAs. sgRNA is basically a sequence complementary to your target site, the gene which you want to target. So gene will be having a long sequence. So in the full gene, which portion which will be able to act as a target for CRISPR-Cas mediated genome editing, we have to choose that. And it is not possible to design only a single sgRNA for targeting a gene, right? For example, in siRNA experiments, we also design a set of siRNAs for targeting a single gene. So amongst them, for example, we designed 3 sgRNAs for targeting a single gene, right? So amongst the 3, which is giving high efficiency, that is crucial. So we have to computationally prior to doing experiments, we have to computationally predict that yes, this kind of sgRNAs will be able to target your gene, and amongst them, this is giving high efficiency. So it's just machine learning based. It's based on the experimental validated sgRNAs. We have taken data from them. So there was a paper which mentioned the role of different sgRNAs in this particular research article. What they have done, they have taken a single human gene, ABS1 locus, and designed 10 sgRNAs for targeting a single gene, and then tried to determine amongst 10 which is giving highest efficiency. So they have given information of that. After that, there was a paper unrevealing CRISPR-Cas9 genome engineering parameters by library approach, and then CRISPR-Scan, which is designing highly efficient sgRNAs for CRISPR-Cas9 targeting in vivo. And then there came a web server also, which is WCRISPR, which is also for designing the guide RNAs. So what we have done computationally in this particular area, we have extracted experimentally validated sgRNA whose efficiency is given that yes, this sgRNA is given 20% efficiency, and second one is giving 80% efficiency. So we have taken data and then developed two pipelines. First is the pipeline 1, which is just classify the sgRNA is high and low, that is it's giving high efficiency and it's giving low efficiency. And second one is the regression, which give you the actual efficiency, that is for example, I am saying that this particular sgRNA is giving high efficiency, so how much percentage, 20%, 30%, 80%. So this pipeline 2 will calculate that. And then after that we used machine learning technique, which is support vector machine, in which we feed the computer with two kind of data. First is the positive data and second is the negative data. So positive data will be the sgRNAs which are having 80% efficiency or 20% efficiency, and the negative data will be efficiency which is sgRNAs which are poorly performing. So we have two kind of data sets. So we train our machine on that features, and then based on that we select our best model on different parameters. I'll explain. And then develop the algorithm which is GE-CRISPR. So before that, after extracting all the sgRNAs or taking experimentally validated sgRNAs, we tried to understand what are the nucleotides which are being favored in the highly efficient sgRNAs, and we found that there is a strong preference of guanine at the 20th position. This is the position of the sgRNA which is close to the PAM sequence. That is followed by this position there is a NGG, and the Cas9 have some residues which interact with this site. So there was a strong preference of guanine which interact with the Cas protein, and there was a strong preference of guanine at the first and second position. This is because whenever we use CRISPR-Cas9 experiments, we always need a promoter to express that particular component, right? So many promoters require G at this position. So the preference of G at this particular position was due to that. So we found that there is a strong preference for guanine at the first, second, and 20th position of the sgRNA adjacent to the PAM. So now I'll just give you a brief how we calculate the performance in machine learning. So whenever we do wet lab experiments, for example, I am trying to check the efficiency of a sgRNA for targeting a gene which is responsible for cancer, right? So for that I design a list of sgRNA, I checked it and then tell yes, this particular sgRNA I have done it in 10 clones. So out of 10 I got 4 positive. So that means this particular genome editing is giving 40% efficiency. That means this sgRNA is able to has a probability of 40% to target the particular location. So that information what we have done, we have tried to implement it bioinformatically and in computational form. What we have done, we are well aware that any information that is the ATGC sequence is very critical for a gene. It is the only thing which determines the function of a gene and then the expression of a gene and how that gene will be converted to a protein, right? So in computationally what we do, we analyze different kind of composition. That means we try to calculate the composition of ATGC in a given sgRNA. So here what we do, we take a sgRNA, experimentally validated sgRNA. For example, that sgRNA is having 20% A and 40% G. Due to that, it's able to target the gene with 50% efficiency. Second sgRNA is having 20% G and 40% A, but its efficiency of targeting is 20%. That means that particular combination of presence of ATGC sequence is contributing something to the increasing or decreasing the efficiency. So we have tried to check that. So we trained our models, that is in machine learning. What we do, we feed the data with the model with two data sets, positive and negative, and it will learn and it will give you the performance. So the performance in machine learning is basic 2-3 parameters. First is the accuracy, how accurately your model is able to predict the positive as positive and negative as negative. So in this case, we performed different composition analysis, and we have found that we got 87% accuracy with the dinucleotide binary. That means binary is mainly to check the performance of each nucleotide at a specific position. For example, if a SGRN is having A at first position, at third position, at 20th position, so it's giving 20% efficiency, and the second one having G at a particular position is contributing to higher efficiency. So we calculated that what is the positional preference of these nucleotides, and we achieved this particular performance on the dinucleotide binary. And then we check the performance of our model on the validation dataset. So validation dataset is the dataset which is not used in the training and testing. It is an independent dataset which is not used elsewhere. So if the machine learning tool is giving same performance of the validation dataset, then you can consider that yes, your machine learning is calculating the performance accurately. And in this case, we were able to find a similar performance on the validation dataset. So after that, we compared the performance of our algorithm with the already existing. So we have taken their data, and using our features which we trained on our model, we tried to check the performance of our algorithm, and we have found that our algorithm performed better than the already existing algorithm. Similarly, there was a different dataset from different paper. On that also, our algorithm performed better than them. So overall, the efficiency of prediction of sgRNAs in case of our algorithm is much better than the already existing ones. And this is the regression on how much quantity, that is the percentage of the efficiency, that is sgRNA is giving 20%, 30% efficiency, and it's calculated in the Pearson correlation coefficient form. It lies between -1 to 1, and if your performance is close to +1, that means your model is predicting or giving good results. And in this case also, we have checked the performance of the independent dataset, and it performs really well on that also. So after that, we have integrated our best models on this web server, which is GE CRISPR. You just have to enter your gene sequence. For example, you want to do CRISPR-Cas9 experiment, and you want to design sgRNA, best sgRNAs to be used as targets for your gene. So you just have to enter your gene sequence here in the text box provided. And then it will scan the sgRNAs on the basis of the NGG. As I have already told that Cas9 require NGG PAM adjacent to your target site. So what the algorithm will do, it will scan all the sequences which are upstream to NGG, and then based on the features which we have already implemented into it, it will classify them into like this. It will give you a list of sgRNAs which can be used as a target for your gene, along with the PAM sequence, its start and end position, its GC content. So GC content is a very crucial feature whenever you design sgRNAs for CRISPR based genome editing, because GC pairing is very strong. So sgRNA will be able to bind to your target site with high specificity, and if you are using a 80-rich sgRNA, it will be able to dissociate very easily from your target site. So we don't want that. So we have to have sgRNA which is having high GC content. So based on that, it will give you a list of green ones are the high efficiency sgRNAs, and red one are the low efficiency sgRNAs. So in this way, you will be able to just choose your sgRNAs from the given list and then design according to your gene of interest. Yeah. So now coming to my next work, which is CRISPR-Vir, which is a repository of highly efficient sgRNAs targeting human viruses. So viruses, as we all know, viruses are very tiny agents that infect every form of life, and they always require a host for their progression or replication. So CRISPR-Cas9 has already established its role in combating the viral infections as well. For example, in curing HIV, HBV, EBV, HSV, etc. And it ensures the important role of CRISPR-Cas system in eliminating or decreasing the viral burden. So as we are already going through this pandemic, that is corona, so CRISPR-Cas9 system has already being used to target the coronavirus, and to make some things based on this particular technology. For example, a research group from Broad Institute, what they have done, they have used this CRISPR-Cas9 technology to detect the viral RNA in the in the samples of the swab or throat sample of the patients which are being infected with the coronavirus. So this particular technique has found its application in current scenario also. So for that, what we have done, we have taken 128 human viruses, and for example, dengue virus and other viruses as well. And then using our already developed algorithm, that is sgRNA designing, we have designed sgRNAs for each virus. And so that if we want to work on a virus, or we want to use CRISPR-Cas9 technology to target that virus, we will be able to explore from this only. We don't have to design its own. We have already designed all the sgRNA specific to that viruses. So this database can be browsed by different options, for example by the family, virus and strand. And on clicking on a single entry, for example you have chosen Murray Valley encephalitis virus, you want to know what are the sgRNAs, what are the target sites which can be used to which can be exploited to use this CRISPR-Cas9 technology or to target that virus. So it will give you details like what is the virus class, which family it belongs, and then its NCBI link, and then the sequence of the sgRNA followed by the PAM sequence, its length, its taxonomy link, and then its gene ID, information related to the gene which gene of the virus which we are using as targeting. Then we have computationally also calculated the RNA secondary structure. This is a predicted secondary structure of the specific sgRNA which is used for targeting this MVEV virus. And yeah, this is a search page. You just have to enter the virus regarding which you want to have information. For example, you want to know the information of all the RNA viruses. You just have to enter RNA in the query box, and it will display the results like this. These are the RNA viruses, the family it's belong, sgRNA, its start and end, its gene ID, its ATGC content, and what is the percentage efficiency of targeting this particular sequence. So we have already integrated the genome browser, in which user will be able to see the location of this particular sgRNA on the viral genome. And apart from that, we have also integrated the off-target tool. I will explain about the off-targeting in my next slides. So yeah. So what are the strategies for off-target? So firstly, I will explain what is off-target. So whenever we target a gene, there is a possibility that elsewhere in the genome there will be sequences which are highly complementary or homologous to your target site. So we don't want to target them. We want to just target, for example, I'm targeting a gene A, and it have some homology elsewhere in the genome. So the Cas9, what will do, it will cut the gene A along with the other homologous also, right? So we don't want that. So that are the off-target sites. So we have to choose sgRNA which will only just cut my desired gene, not elsewhere in the genome. So for that, we have to do some manipulations in the CRISPR-based bioinformatically manipulations that will avoid the off-targets. Because whenever there are off-targets, for example, my gene is having homology with the gene which is involved in a important metabolic pathway, so it will affect that also. So in some cases, cells will also die. So we don't want that. We just want to target our particular gene in question only. So there are different strategies which are being used experimentally for minimizing the off targets. So researchers have suggested, instead of using the 20 base per sgRNA, if we cut the length of this sgRNA, it's almost giving the same efficiency. So we can do that. Secondly, we can control the concentration of the Cas9 sgRNA complex which we feed to the cells. Then wild type Cas9 nuclease can be replaced with the mutant Cas9 or the dead Cas9. So if we manipulate the wild type Cas9, it can be used to target different strands of the gene, and in this way off targeting can be minimized. And then fourth one is the using anti-CRISPR proteins. So for that, we have also developed a web server which is prediction and analysis of anti-CRISPR proteins. So as their name suggests, anti-CRISPR proteins are the proteins which are working against the machinery of CRISPR-Cas9 system. That means they belong. So these viruses are very smart. So what they have done, when bacteria, learned how to prevent themselves from the viral attack, they came up with anti-CRISPR proteins. So these proteins will be able to overcome the CRISPR-Cas9 machinery. So they were firstly identified in 2013 in the phages which were infecting this particular Pseudomonas aeruginosa bacteria. And then integration of these phages in the form of prophage in this bacterial genome allowed the phages to kill. that bacteria, which is otherwise not possible due to the presence of active CRISPR-Cas system, which is providing immunity. So when they done the sequence comparison, they tried to find out what is the thing which is allowing these phages to kill this bacteria. They found a unique locus in these phages, which is anti-CRISPR locus, and it has around 10 different gene families, and they are around 150 to 450 amino acids long only. They are very short. So there came different reports on the importance of these anti-CRISPR proteins, and then there was a research, in 2017, anti-CRISPR proteins decrease off-target side effects of CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So this report highlighted the use of anti-CRISPR proteins to minimize the off-targets of CRISPR-Cas system. So typically, when we use CRISPR-Cas9 for genome editing, what happens? Cas9 only require around 2 to 3 hours to do its work, and after that it will bind to the off-targeting sites or other sites of the genome, which are somewhat similar. So researchers, what they have done, they have fitted the cells with the anti-CRISPR protein. These anti-CRISPR proteins bind to the Cas protein and will not allow it to bind elsewhere in the genome or bind anywhere in the genome. So once the Cas9 in 2-3 hours done its activity, we can give anti-CRISPR proteins, and they will block the Cas proteins and they will not bind elsewhere in the genome. So how these anti-CRISPR proteins work? This is typically a CRISPR array. So in this way, this CRISPR-Cas complex is formed. What these anti-CRISPR proteins do? They will bind the target with two sides. Firstly, they will bind to the Cas protein. So Cas protein has two lobes, and one bind with a complementary strand, and second one bind to the non-complementary strand. So these anti-CRISPR protein, they bind to these lobes and will not allow the Cas protein to bind to the CRISPR complex. So in this way, editing will not be performed. Secondly, if a CRISPR-Cas complex is already formed, these anti-CRISPR proteins again bind to that and will not allow that complex to bind to the target. So in this way, again, genome editing by CRISPR-Cas system will be avoided. So these are the anti-CRISPR proteins which are being reported till now. And then in 2017, there came a database, which is anti-CRISPR DB, in which they reported all the experimentally validated anti-CRISPR proteins found till that date. So based on that, what we have done, we have tried to find out new anti-CRISPR proteins by using bioinformatics. So in this case, we have taken the experimentally validated anti-CRISPR proteins from the anti-CRISPR database, and then a negative database from the UniProt. That is, on the other hand, we have taken CRISPR proteins, and then we created the data, and using model training for different using machine learning techniques like SVM, Weka, etc., and then tested the data on the independent validation, and then improvised it with other factors as well. And then after that, we checked the amino acid composition of the anti-CRISPR protein. That means we tried to find what are the amino acids which are being favored in these anti-CRISPR proteins, and we found that there is a strong preference of aspartate, glutamate, and phenylalanine in the anti-CRISPR proteins. After that, we tried to know the positional preference. For example, what are the amino acids which are preferred at a particular location? For example, there is a strong preference of methionine at the first position of the anti-CRISPR protein, etc. And similarly, with the C-terminal nucleotides, we have also done that. Then we identified different kind of motifs which are present in these anti-CRISPR proteins. And then we have also find some domains, and these domains are mainly helix, turn helix, which are the DNA binding domains. And then using machine learning, again, we check the performance of our algorithm on different parameters, like how much accuracy it's giving, how much Matthews correlation coefficient it is giving. And in this case, we found that combining the amino acid composition with the dipeptide composition, it's giving highest efficiency. And then we integrated all the information on this web server, which is anti-CRISPR protein. So what user has to, you just have to enter your protein sequence, and this algorithm will calculate whether your given protein is having anti-CRISPR property or non-anti-CRISPR property. So in this way, for example, this red color is highlighting positive prediction. That means this particular protein is having anti-CRISPR activity, as compared to the blue ones which are having negative prediction. That means these are not the anti-CRISPR proteins. These are not the anti-CRISPR protein. They are non-anti-CRISPR proteins. So yeah, in summary, What we have done, we have created a CRISPR GE repository, which is the first repository containing all the information related to the CRISPR-Cas9 experiment, and then a prediction algorithm which will give you, which will help you to design sgRNA specific to your target gene, and covering all the parameters which are required to take care during the CRISPR-Cas9 experiments, and then repository of sgRNA against human viruses. If you want to work with viruses, you will be able to design sgRNAs for targeting that particular virus, and then prediction of anti-CRISPR proteins. It will help to predict new anti-CRISPR proteins, as we use different kind of Cas proteins. So there has to be different set of anti-CRISPR proteins which are targeting that particular Cas protein. So there is a need to predict new or novel anti-CRISPR proteins from fudges. So these are my publications, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karambir, for the informative lecture.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm sure that this might have contributed significantly to the understanding of the participants. Due to paucity of time and delay in the start of today's program, I could not welcome the dignitaries and the participants. So I'm sorry for that. So I now take this opportunity to formally welcome Dr. Karambir Kaur, who is project scientist from NABI and is our today's speaker. Professor Prince Sharma, who is Dean Science Faculty and President AMI Chandigarh Unit. Dr. Naveen Gupta, who is also the faculty in the Department of Microbiology at Punjab University and is General Secretary of AMI Chandigarh Unit. Then we have Dr. Vandana Sharma from Department of Microbial and Food Technology, MCM DAV College, Chandigarh, who is also the executive member of AMI Chandigarh Unit. To the second lecture of the Seminar and Journal Club series. So I welcome all of you to the second lecture of the Seminar and Journal Club series, which was floated last week. And the aim of this lecture series is to encourage the young scientists and the research scholars, and also to bring them to a common platform. So as every lecture is followed by discussion, I now invite Dr. Naveen Gupta to coordinate the discussion session. So Dr. Naveen Gupta, please.
Thank you, Dr. Karambir, for explaining the CRISPR in detail. So first of all, I keep it open for discussion. If anybody wish to ask any question from the house, then otherwise, I have received some questions from the participants. And somebody is asking that what you think is the application of this CRISPR in solving some of the human diseases and all that, in your opinion, in general. Like somebody is asking,
Yeah.
can it play some role in curing cancer and all those sort of things?
Yeah, there is a lot of research which is already being done on CRISPR-Cas9 based genome editing to target different diseases. For example, in cancer as well. So, for example, we want to work on lung cancer. We want to do editing or target the genes which are involved in lung cancer. So, for that, we just have to have the information of the genetic markers which are being present in that particular cancer, and then specific to that particular marker we can design the sgRNAs, and then using Cas proteins we will be able to target that particular cancer cells or cancer genes which are being involved in that particular infection.
Dr. Karam, what do you think are some of the limitations with this technique? What are the limiting factors? What do you think?
Yeah, so the main limiting factor is the off targets, which I have already discussed. That sometimes what happens, this Cas protein is it's specific, but sometimes it will target the locations in the genome which are somewhat similar to your target site. So, for example, the sequences which are similar to your target site that may be involved in a particular metabolic pathway. So, if they will also get chopped off with the CRISPR-Cas9 technology, so the cell may sometimes die. So we have to come up with better strategies to minimize the off targets which are associated with this particular technology.
Okay. I will I will invite Professor Prince Sharma. I think he is the only one among us who is doing lots of molecular biology. So, sir, if your comments are...
I congratulate Karambi. He's done a very good work on CRISPR, and on the databases. I'm not an expert on the bioinformatics. In molecular biology, yes. And you have been very well, you have said that off targets, these are the main concerns with people who are working on CRISPR-Cas. And for
Yeah.
that, they have been doing many things like anti-CRISPRs, and then they have been trying to replace Cas9 with some other enzymes also,
Yes.
which are better, efficient, more efficient rather than. So I
Yeah.
will just say that, in your opinion, Cas9, is it the only enzyme, or some other better enzymes have also been found by some other people?
Yeah, so no, Cas9 is not the only enzyme. Actually, there is a drawback with Cas9 that it always target the site which is adjacent to NGG PAM sequence. And this NGG, for example, N can be any nucleotide followed by GG. So this pattern is repeated after every 12 or 10 base pairs, right? So we can use different other Cas proteins, for example, Cas12, which require different PAM sequence for the identification. That is, it requires triple TN after your target site. So there are a lot of different Cas variants which are being developed, and this particular Cas protein is not the only one. For example, we want to target the RNAs instead of the DNA. In case of, we can take the example of viruses. So in that case, there is a new enzyme that is Cas13, which is specifically for targeting the RNA. So there are a lot of variants now being in the research field of the Cas9, which can be used to avoid the limitations associated with this Cas9. So it's not the only enzyme.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, CRISPR-Cas lately have been used by some people, particularly in IIGB. They have used CRISPR technology for detection
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
coronaviruses also. So, you think
Yes.
that
Yes.
this method is going to be is very good, better than RT-PCR, or it's going to be very, very specific for coronavirus?
I'm not saying that it can be very efficient, but research is going on at a very strong pace in this particular area. And from the developer of this particular technology, that is Jennifer Diodana, I heard their lecture last night. So they are also coming up with things like this, that they are trying to use this CRISPR-Cas9 technology to not, it's not on the antibody based or the RT-PCR based. They are using different strategies to how they can be able to, detect the coronavirus in the patients which are suffering from this particular conditions. So they have used it with some reporter sequences kind of things, tags kind of, if the patient is will be having this coronavirus, so it will show the fluorescence color. So they are doing that thing. So it's not, I can't say right now that it's very much efficient than the RT-PCR, because it's a very old technique which is being utilized, and this is a very new technique which is coming forward. So I'm hopeful that it will be able to do that also.
Yeah, very well said, yeah, Karambi. So, thank you, Naveen.
Come, Dr. Ravinder from our department wish to ask, can we increase the
Yes.
length of guide RNA? Can we increase the length of guide RNA to increase the specificity or to limit the non-specific bonding?
Basically, initially, the researchers have used, instead of the 20 base pairs, they have used a 23 base pair sgRNA. But the sgRNA is having two components. First is the seed region, and second is the non-seed region. So the 12 nucleotides adjacent to the PAM sequence, they form the seed sequence, and others are the non-seed sequence. So any mismatches in the non-seed region are tolerated, but not in the 12 nucleotides which are adjacent to the PAM. So it's of no use if we increase the length of the sgRNA. We have to be critical with the 12 nucleotides which are adjacent to PAM. So it's not a good idea to increase the length of the sgRNA, as the non-seed region is not much contributing to the specificity. So if we want to have a specific sgRNA, we have to avoid the mismatches in the 12 base pairs which are close to the PAM sequence. So that's why instead of 23 nucleotides, the researchers are now being using 20 nucleotide sgRNA or the 17 base pair nucleotides of sgRNA.
So I think Dr. Ravinder's question is answered. I have a personal query, Dr. Karam. As
Yes, sir.
this is a comparatively new technique, most of us are not
Yes.
very familiar with it, and of course, students are not. Because you are
Yes.
into it, are there any
Yes.
centers or any who are running some courses, some short duration, where students can go and learn about these and all that?
Yeah,
If
in
you are
NABI as
familiar.
well. Yeah, yeah, in NABI as well, lot of PU students they came for the dissertation, and then specifically in the plant tissue culture lab in which I am working. So they are basically working on CRISPR-Cas9 technology on editing the plants basically in banana. So there is a training for 6 months, for 3 months, for 4 months. So yeah, they can do that work there. So sometimes they are also organizing workshops related to only to CRISPR-Cas9, hands-on workshop on the CRISPR-Cas9 technology. So it was in the last November, and this year they will also come up with something like this.
Okay, so I think this is good information for students. They can make use of it.
Yeah,
They can apply for these training sessions and get equipped with these
yeah.
recent techniques wherever they are
Yeah,
available.
because
So
in the workshop related to CRISPR and NABI, they are giving the hands-on, so students will be able to know how they will be, they will be more confident to do this technology by themselves as well.
okay, okay. So that's a good information. And you mentioned about one repository about this information about CRISPR and all that. Is it available
Yeah.
to anybody? Can a little about it and all that?
Yeah.
So
I have done these databases and algorithms during my PhD, so they are freely available.
certainly. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Karambir, for giving such a good lecture and answering most of the questions to the students. And I have given your number also to the students. They can contact you
Yeah,
later on
sure,
also
no
if they will
problem.
have any query
Yeah.
regarding to this. So
Yeah,
thank
so
you
I
very
would
much
also like to
for.
thank you all for giving me this opportunity, and I am very much confident that yes, I can be able to give more lectures like this in my future as well. So thank you so much all for joining me today.
Yeah, as Professor Prince and Professor Soni said, the main purpose is for this that we thought that even post-pandemic, this is going to be our lifestyle in our teaching and research to
Yeah,
communicate.
yeah,
So our
yeah, yeah,
young
yeah.
student and researchers should get used to these. That's why we started with this series. So I
Yes,
think
sir.
it must be good for the students. So we all of us should be thankful to Dr. Karam. Very good lecture she gave. She explained. She is locally available in Chandigarh as at least students
Yes,
who are from our department from Chandigarh and other they can contact her. So
yes, sir.
thank you, Dr. Karam, once again. Now
Thank you
we
so much.
at the end of this today's we have with us Dr. Vandana Sharma. She is an executive member of our AMI Chandigarh unit. I invite her to propose a vote of thanks for today's lecture.
Thank you, Dr. Naveen. A very warm greetings to Professor Prince Sharma, President AMI Chandigarh Unit and Dean Science Faculty, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Dr. S.K. Soni, Senior Vice President AMI Chandigarh Unit and Professor Department of Microbiology. Dr. Naveen Gupta, Secretary AMI Chandigarh Unit and Professor Department of Microbiology. Dr. Karambir, our today's speaker, and all the participants who have joined today live on webinar 4 of the lecture series. This lecture series is, I must say, it's a wonderful effort initiated by Association of Microbiologists of India, Chandigarh Unit and Department of Microbiology, Punjab University, to provide a platform to the young researchers to share their ideas and interact with eminent scientists. So I, on behalf of AMI, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to everyone for gracing the occasion. I'm grateful to Professor Rajkumar, Vice Chancellor, Punjab University, under whose leadership this program is being conducted. I may like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Prince Sharma for initiating this wonderful program. And it is his vision and leadership that has brought a stimulating environment and motivated us to organize such educational programs. I'm extremely thankful to Professor Kusum Harjai for giving all the support on behalf of Department of Microbiology. I express sincere gratitude to Professor S.K. Soni for providing all the logistic support and guidance always during any program. My special thanks to Dr. Naveen Gupta, who conceived this unique idea and worked extremely hard in foreground and background to make this program a success. I extend a heartfelt gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Karambir, who shared with us her knowledge and very informative talk, ma'am. And I'm sure that all the participants would have benefited immensely from today's session. We are so thankful to you for joining our lecture series today. I'm also thankful to whole faculty of Department of Microbiology and whole team of AMI Chandigarh unit for their support and cooperation. Last but definitely not the least of all, I'm thankful to our youngest member, Ms. Faguni Gupta, for giving all the technical support and to make this program a big success. I also want to thank all the students who have been the heart and soul of this program. So thank you once again. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana. So I'm personally thankful to all for joining. So I think it is a very fruitful lecture, and we will have much more lectures like this in coming Sundays. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think, okay, so we can disperse. Thank you to all who have joined online.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vandana. Thank you.
Thank you.